We are here with Jay and John tonight. And like every week here, we are brought to you by DJEventPlanner.com, www.DJEventPlanner.com. We have other sponsors. Go down to the description of this video on YouTube to learn more about them. Tonight's topic. DJs are weird. Just weird. What?
We're forgetting something. We're forgetting something.
Well, we're going to do that. Just let me host the damn show.
Well, wait, you start going off script. People get anxious, Brian.
But before we do that,
hey, you got a lot on your mind. I got to jump in sometimes, help guide you around the distraction.
Dude, what are you doing? I had this nice flow going. I had this all planned out. I knew that if I hadn't mentioned the sponsor early, then it was going to get cut out. My intro was going to get cut out.
There you go.
So I had to do it immediately. And I want to do a show topic immediately so people stuck around to hear it after we're done doing Boston John's Record Roundup.
There you go. Totally.
Every week, we all present a record to you for your listening pleasure. Something we're just recommending. Might be for DJing, might not be. Doesn't matter. This is a music show. John always has something nice for us. What do you got for us this week, John?
Well, we are coming up on the 33rd anniversary. That's a very significant date for this young lady, March 20th. And we haven't talked about her yet, and I'm really surprised.
Okay.
So she first got on my radar with Duck, 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 Duck to Beat. I have Miss Gloria Estefan. I got the 45s early on because Conga was 85, bought that. But then this was the one, I think this is really what broke them. I guess she's from Havana, Unana, right?
Miami.
Cuban family. Lives in Miami.
Yeah.
Imported to Miami in the 70s. And she's just been, just constantly knocking out hits. She was just always on the radio because Gloria Estefan and her band did two things well. A very good Latin dance groove, and she could crush ballads like nobody's business. And so you'd hear her on the adult contemporary stations with Words Get in the Way, Can't Get Away from You.
Can't Stay Away from You, yeah.
Right. Anything for You. I know that Can't Get Away from You kind of sounds.
Yeah, there was Anything for You as well, yeah.
and then, of course, Rhythm Is Gonna Get You landed on this record. So I'm like, it's time to buy this poor girl's album. So this was 87, right? And they were still rolling strong. 1, 2, 3, 4, Tell Me Baby That You Love Me. It was 88. And then, sadly, in 1990, her tour bus got rear-ended by an 18-wheeler on traffic, and she had 2 of her cervical vertebrae broken. That's the middle of your back.
Yeah, they said she was done.
She'd never walk.
That was somewhere in Indiana, I think.
Couldn't have kids. She was in Pennsylvania when that happened.
Oh, was it Pennsylvania? Okay.
Yeah, right near Scranton. Lifted her to the hospital, and they're like, it was a year rehab, but she got through it and came back out. Put out a few things after, but it's just, she's lucky to be alive after something like that, But back touring, she appeared with the Divas. She's been on a few of the Diva shows, like when they bring out Celine Dion and, the big names, Whitney's.
She's totally not a diva. She's totally not a diva.
No.
She's the sweetest lady ever. Her and her husband, Enrique, I think is his name, Enrique Estefan. I would be next door neighbors to Gloria and Enrique Estefan. They would be my dream next door neighbors. They're just the sweetest people. I don't know if you've ever seen interviews with them or not. As a couple, they're amazing. They did one on Howard Stern several years back, Shay. If you can find it in the archives, have a check because I know you like the Howard Stern interviews.
Yeah,
He's getting ready to pick on her. They both go in there. They're just so nice. He just gets floored how cool they are. They're both just super cool.
She seems very cool. I'm not the biggest Miami Music Machine fan. It's just not
whatever
my
they're called. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how much of a fan I am. But she, as an artist, has never presented herself in any light but positivity and like a nice person. I know she does charitable work. I think she's talented. She certainly represented the Miami scene well and the Cuban music scene. And yeah, I've got nothing against her. It's just not my vibe, But
that's cool. It's my understanding that the Miami Sound Machine is a very old band. and Gloria didn't join it until she married Enrique.
Oh, okay.
That's my
like 81, 82, I think it goes back to when they were just starting out. He was under a different name, and it was right. The boys were the family, and they had her sing one time, and that works.
Right.
So she's staying on board, and as I say, Dr. Beat was the first single, and 12-inch remixes. I'm sure there's a ton of them because that got a lot of airplay.
I did a wedding years ago, and one of the groomsmen was the sax player for Miami Sound Machine.
Oh, wow.
A really nice guy. Really, really nice. He didn't tell me that. The wife told me that. And he was
That's
super
proof
cool.
They're nice when they don't tell you.
Yeah, he did.
When they don't make a big, like, hey, by the way, just so you know, I'm the sax player.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, he was just sweet. He was just a really...
Yeah, it's the cool guys that are like, they downplay it. You know? I walk in every door. I know Brian Red. Just to let you guys know, I'm on kind of a big
dropping names.
I drop them in, I pick them up, I drop them again.
You do?
Yeah. Yeah, so her dance stuff was huge. I mean, I didn't get a lot of traction out of the slow jams but later as the weddings and things, as DJing, you change. Well, you need some of that. Oh, I have some of that. You remember that you have those, but we were just playing the dance songs. Rhythm is going to get you still. Will fill a dance floor to this day. I played it on the mountain when I was just up at Sugarloaf the weekend ago, and everyone was just vibing along because it's just happy. It's such a happy feeling, and it doesn't feel Spanish. It feels like that Miami freestyle.
Yeah, it's pop music. It's almost pop standard.
Yeah.
The one that I still get traction with and people ask for it, and when they do, it's women of a certain age ask for it, and when they ask for it and I play it, they go crazy, and it's conga. Of course.
Yeah, that still gets traction. It doesn't sound Spanish the way that Buena Vista Social Club doesn't sound Spanish to me. You know what I mean? And they're Cuban-based through Rai Cuban.
Well,
and I wonder if it's a Cuban thing, John.
They're really American bands. I mean, once somebody from, anywhere in that part of the world comes over to stateside, they're us. And they bring some of their flavor with.
That's, I think, more the flavor is what I'm driving at, not like the location. Like
she's a very mild chili.
Yeah, they don't.
They're a little bit us. They're a little bit home, and it's a nice mesh.
Yeah.
The one that came on my radar, the first time I ever heard the name Miami Sound Machine was a song called "Bad Boys."
Bad Boys.
Yeah, and that song was written by Ishla Damza. He was the guy who did Foxy's "Get Off," also from Cuba, by the way, like a Cuban immigrant. He also did Oxa with Whirly Girl, and he was the guy who did Company B with "Fascinated" and "Perfect Love." The lead singer of Company B, I can't remember her name. That was his wife at the time.
Oh, okay.
He actually played on that record too. He wrote it and he played on it. So Miami Sound Machine, to my understanding, was a lot of Miami stuff. There was a core band, but there were a lot of Miami-based musicians that came in and out of it too, as writers and performers and such. So just kind of a cool community musical effort.
Did they do studio work at all? Is this like a kind of vibey Toto-ish thing, or were they just a band? They weren't like coming out of studios and all that and then became a band,
I think that they were more like Steely Dan in the regard that they had this rotation of people who came in and out of it that were core members, but then
there were core and then other people came and went.
Yes, that's my understanding of what Miami Sound Machine was.
Okay.
So it was
hopefully somebody that knows more than us in the comments will make.
So, let us know.
Right?
We're stupid.
Look, just see, in terms of like writing credits, if her name actually shows up on any of the songs to see if,
or Enrique, perhaps.
Family member. No. Nope. Just 0 for 10. She's not listed as a writer on anything. So she's a performer. She's the talent. So, but I thought she'd be a good toss in just because there's a lot of stuff. I'm glad
you brought her up.
So
yeah,
got a lot of love from them, a lot of traction out of them over the years. So
what do you have, Jay?
Well, I'm going in a little different direction.
Of course.
But I'm going in the 80s, and I'm going to one of the first cassette tapes I bought that one of the comments was made upon release that this was over 60 minutes long. which in the 80s, I think the first two 60-minute plus cassettes, one was Metallica, I want to say Injustice, and this one. And this is, we are going to look to our good friend, Mr. Mutt Lang, for his production on this. Even though it took 3 years to record this, we're talking Def Leppard's Hysteria, which DJs will know Pour Some Sugar on Me. They probably know Animal. They probably know Hysteria, Love Bites. First single was Women, which I think is an amazingly cool song. Rocket is very influenced by the glam of the 70s. They mentioned T-Rex and Bowie. And
they Major Tom and
Yep. Animal and Hysteria are the two really big tracks on this, on top of Pour Some Sugar, which was their last hit on it, which catapulted the album. And there's a great interview with Phil Collins, who's like, we spent so much money on it that when we got to selling 5 million, which any group would be thrilled with, we hadn't quite broken even yet. And then we released Pour Some Sugar. And at the beginning of the tour, they were playing like 3,000 seat, 3,000 to 5,000 seat theaters. And by the end of the tour, they were playing literally stadiums.
Yeah.
And they played Jack Murphy in San Diego to like 60,000 people towards the end of that tour. And it just kept going. I saw them on this tour with Tesla in the Round, which was amazing. And it's a great, great album. It's the kind of album you can really drop the needle sort of and just listen all the way through.
Yeah, it's good.
And, Def Leppard, I love On Through the Night and High and Dry.
High and
Dry is where I found them. And Pyromania is a great album too, but Hysteria really breaks away, in my opinion, as far as the production quality.
You're right.
The layering. Like, they're layering like 18, 19 guitar parts. And as a guitar player, it's fascinating to me because when you hear them live, it still sounds great, but you hear the difference because they just can't do it live. So they have to change what they record. And Phil Collins does a lot of interviews where he's like, this is the 4 guitars you hear in the beginning of this. It does this, I play this, Vivian plays that. And it's just fascinating to me because they're just good songs. They're memorable, they're very hooky.
It's a very good album. I have a signed copy of it behind me.
Really?
Yes. I have a signed copy of Hysteria.
By the band?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Very cool.
I got it on a crate dig, and I'd had it for years. And when I was going through the records and cataloging them on Discogs, I pulled out the inner sleeve, and it's all these scribbles on here. I'm like, well, that doesn't look right. And I did some checking, and that's what I have.
They're an interesting band. They're on tour right now with Motley Crue because they did a big stadium thing with Joan Jett, Poison, Motley Crue, and then they had an opener in the middle. And it's funny to me because that did so well that Motley was like, we got to continue going. Motley's replaced Mick Mars with John Five, and he looks completely out of place because he's just a virtuoso, and he's just standing here with this like high-strung telly, not even making an effort and playing things perfectly.
Yeah.
But Def Leppard to me is the only one in that lineup, maybe Poison. And I've hung out with a couple of those guys. I think they genuinely still love what they do. I think Motley's in it solely for the money they're getting.
Yeah.
But I think Def Leppard is like, you know what? We're still having fun doing this. We still really enjoy what we do. And they can all sing.
And they can. They got good harmonies.
And pretty positive. Leopard just put out a record in 22, so they're still at it, even with new material.
The first track,
and it's not bad.
It's not bad. And Joe Elliott, and I think I told you, John, there was an article like 2 years ago, is Ghost the new Def Leppard online, like on some rock site? And all of a sudden, John turns me on. Here's Ghost releasing a track with Joe Elliott singing on it, and it's good. What is it, Stillways?
Yeah, Spillways.
It's a good track.
Well, the band, Tobias named Def Leppard as an influence, a heavy influence.
Oh, okay.
And the recording of that song, they're in the Swedish, theater, and they're at the piano where ABBA was playing, right? So the song was kind of, it throws back to that whole glam of England, and Def Leppard was, surprised to say, oh, you're naming me as an influence. Well, we love your music too. So they rang each other like, hey, why don't you we're going to do a re-release and put you on a verse and a chorus. And Joe was like, I'm in. and they're going to collaborate further on something else. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, there aren't many bands anymore that, I mean, literally a handful of bands that I think any of us could name that today are putting out new product. You know, Poison is very upfront, and I respect their honesty. You know what? When we come up with a song that we think is worthy of releasing, we will. They just haven't in 35 years.
If I got news for you, Jay, oh boy. Well, Kip Winger is putting out a record. I've heard the first song.
How is it?
It's different. It's not
hairband.
No, okay. It's a rocker. Then I saw that Extreme.
Oh, the new Extreme track, Rise.
That's ripping.
Okay. Yeah. Just everybody trust me on this. I have been in passionate love of guitarists and the guitar as long as I can remember. I'm going to say something that will probably make, I would say New York Times will pick this up, Brian, probably tomorrow morning when this gets released early.
Yeah, probably.
Go check the video for the new Extreme song, Rise. And check out Nuno Betancourt's guitar playing, and then realize that what you're seeing and hearing right there is something that I think even Eddie Van Halen would have said, oh, how did he do that? Like, that's how amazing Rise is. Yeah.
I really liked Extreme, but I could never forgive them after Get the Funk Out. That one just bothered me.
Writer's block. The record after that was good too.
Yeah.
That's got Decadent Dance. I mean, Decadent Dance is one of the best tones.
I couldn't forgive him.
Oh, Three Sides Blind. Oh.
This is why I think we're going back to 88. David Lee Roth's got a record in the works. That's coming. I just heard a single from that.
Three Sides Every Story, wasn't it called?
Yeah.
I call it Three Sides Blind.
Okay.
I'm friends with the band. I'm giving writing credit on the album. I didn't mess the name up. They genuinely said, Jay, what do you think of the name? And I said, Three Sides Blind. And they said, no, we're going to make it Three Sides for Every Story.
It's three sides to every story, your side, her side, and the truth. That's the three sides to every story. Which actually,
correct.
I remembered that. That was some pretty good philosophy there. But
I told him not to.
That's when Nirvana came in and just tidal waved it all.
Yeah, exactly.
And it all went away.
Yeah.
So now it's all coming back.
Yeah, but you know what? In reality, as crazy as this is, do you really think that's what happened? You really think grunge could wipe out an entire movement?
Yes.
It changed radio stations nationwide.
It did. But I don't think the fan base changed. I think if the bands worked harder, I think the bands gave up too, though. Like if the bands had carried on, I think the fans would have stuck with them. Not every fan of 80s suddenly woke up one day and put on a flannel and said, I hate my life. I'm sad. I wish it would rain.
The same thing happened with disco.
Yeah, but disco was a movement to get rid of it. That whole Chicago, your people incident, that was a little bit of an icing on the cake.
I'm whatever's convenient. I'm a hillbilly sometimes. I live in Chicago sometimes. It's whatever's convenient.
You're that jack of all trades.
Pinata of the day. Yeah.
No, but I mean, disco.
Sometimes I'm white, sometimes I'm Latino, whatever.
Disco became something. I don't think the 80s rock became anything. Disco kind of
that's not suggesting. House. No, what I'm telling you is that what happened was something was new. Something was decidedly now old, and something was decidedly now new. That's what happened. And if you break it down to that basic thing, yeah. So if you're young, you're going to gravitate towards the new, and you're going to reject the old. That's the same thing.
I see that, but first time I heard Alice in Chains and
all the radio stations changed overnight.
Yeah, they did, but Alice in Chains was influenced by Black Sabbath the same way that all the 80s bands were.
And sure they were. They didn't start playing music in 1982.
Why everyone had to turn their back on it.
Well, they didn't say Alice in Chains sounds like Sabbath. They're like from Seattle, like the rest of the bands from Seattle. Like, oh boy, here comes the wave.
Where were they going to get airplay? Because there were no radio stations supporting that anymore. They all went to the new rock format real quick.
When I say I don't think the movement killed it, I think the things around it did. But I don't think it was the fan base of.
Dude, grunge killed the mall stores. I was working in retail at the time. We couldn't sell a shirt anymore. Everybody wanted to go.
No,
everybody wanted to go to Kmart buy flannels.
Yeah, they weren't going to dress like they had any money.
Forever 21's not playing Come As You Are over the speakers.
Yeah, Telos was no longer like, do you want these white shoes? I just need construction boots. We don't have them.
It's what was happening. It was real.
Yeah, and I mean, even Janie Lane famously talks about going to the Sony office when Cherry Pie broke, and in the front lobby was like the album cover and the Bobby Brown from the video and all this stuff. And he said we came in like a year later, and they had Alice in Chains up there, and everyone looked really sad and depressed, and there was rain, and like it's just too bad. I kind of look at music as being bigger than movements, and music as being bigger than itself sometimes.
Well, it was such
just because something changes doesn't, like, I still love listening to old Kiss songs. I'm obviously 10 or 12 years older now than I was then. It doesn't mean I have to give up on stuff.
No, but I'm just suggesting that the youth at the time were now gravitating towards whatever was new.
I don't think there'll be a resurgence because they're all dead. You're not going to get a resurgence of them. Like half of them are gone. We lost one.
It's good that some of them are at least trying to put out new product. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of bands can do a greatest hits tour for the rest of their career.
Well, yeah.
And you'll be fine.
Now.
I saw Barry Manilow. And
you got to have time between those things to do that, though.
Right.
You can't just show up the next year and say, hey, I'm here. Let's do a greatest hits tour.
Yeah.
And who's going to care?
Jerry Cantrell's in town on Friday, 17th. He's playing local, but he's doing his solo record, and it's almost country. It's really strange. Yeah, but he's good at it. I mean, anything time he picks up the guitar, it sounds amazing.
A lot of weirdo things happen right around 92. A lot of weirdo things happen that I saw that, R&B changed really quick and rock changed really quick. And then
when it opened up that new metal sound, that like suddenly you had Stained and Godsmack and Korn and Limp Bizkit.
A little later
that were taking stuff in from an earlier period.
And even the top 40 stuff got real folky, got real grassroots. You had that whole women's movement thing a few years later.
Lilith.
It got weird.
Yeah,
it got weird.
It did. It was a weird decade. I always blame the bands for not saying, you know what? We have fans in every city. Let's at least go on tour. But the machine doesn't put the money behind the tour if the band isn't going to draw the stadium or the arena anymore.
It was a different game at the time.
It was. I mean, you got bands out there with mop buckets and washboards, and you got like Hootie and the Blowfish and Mumford and Sons. I'm like,
well, that was much later, but yeah.
It's the same. It's anything. I call it swamp.
It's that same
it's a category of like
Presidents of the United States of America, Bare Naked Ladies. I mean, all that stuff was kind of a residual thing from what happened in 92. Because we were having fun until all that happened. Everybody was getting along. And it seemed like it got real tribal in 92, where it was either this DIY stuff or it was this, the R&B was like hardcore. It changed. And the only saving grace for me anyway, as a DJ, like working DJ in nightclubs, was the stuff that was coming in from Europe, the underground stuff and the stuff that was coming from Chicago, and flashbacking to maybe a more positive time, because I didn't want to see people committing suicide on the dance floor to the kind of crap that was getting released, because it was really depressing stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly uplifting. That
was a tough pocket for dance music, like you said.
You're
importing it from the UK or elsewhere, right?
Yeah. Speaking of people who, there was kind of a point where, the career split. I have an artist like this on deck for my record of the week.
Prince.
No, not Prince. Not Prince. This album is 100% front to back bangers. And it's a gift from a dear friend. I was in line to buy it the day it came out. I was so excited to buy it because it featured a new track that I had to have. But this particular copy is a gift from a friend, and that is Madonna's Immaculate Collection.
All right, got it.
This is all the great stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just call it the first decade. It was probably about 8 years, but first decade. A lot of them are remixed, but it's a good introduction to what Madonna was. Because I've seen a lot of stuff on social media lately where she's kind of being made fun of her plastic surgery and that kind of stuff. not a relevant artist really, as far as the kids are concerned. But there was a time when Madonna
was the thing,
unstoppable force,
and she was a groundbreaker,
ruled the world for a while.
Yes,
yeah.
But this is nothing but bangers, 100% bangers on here. There's nothing bad. And the reason I had to have this is it had 2 brand new tracks on it. One was called Rescue Me, but the other one, Baked My Noodle. And it was Madonna's Justify My Love. And it's an interesting track. It's a very interesting track.
Great track.
It features a Public Enemy drum beat.
Yep.
And an Ingrid Chavez poem, which was all put together by Lenny Kravitz. And it was almost like, I don't know, like everything Madonna was getting progressively better. And that hit, that was like, oh my God, that's amazing. After that, the Erotica album, I wasn't a big fan of the Erotica album. There are some good tracks on there looking back on it. And I almost featured Like a Prayer, which isn't my favorite Madonna album, but it's got some great songs on it. And it's very relevant to DJs because Like a Prayer's on there, and a lot of us still play that once in a while.
Oh, sure.
Express Yourself is amazing. Cherish is really good. But the greatest hits.
I think it's good too, like you said, Brian, because there are remixes. Chase down the originals because in their own right, the originals were banging too. But the remix is like new spin on something we love, and maybe that's the birth of the remix. John's
right. I mean, if you give this a listen, if you find this at Goodwill or whatever, you give it a listen on the CD. It's probably there. Check it out. If there's something that sounds cool to you, have a listen to the original. Like for me, when I was out DJing, I never played the remix. I believe Shep Pettibone did it of Holiday. I didn't like it. It sounded like the Madonna the Broadway musical to me. I like the original version of Holiday, so I always carried a copy of Madonna's first self-titled album for that track. That one and Lucky Star. I love playing Lucky Star. But anyway, yeah, that's my pick this week.
I had not heard Justify My Love. I was watching Saturday Night Live with Mike Myers and Dana Carvey, and they did the review, kind of like a Beavis and Butthead review, and Shring, right, watching the video.
I remember that.
I'm that guy, right?
He was in the video, yeah, and Garth is in the hallway in the bodysuit.
Yeah. And I was like, is this real? I thought it was actually a parody. I didn't know it was actually going to be a real song.
A take of the original video. If you haven't seen that, that was pretty scandalous.
Madonna's in that take on it too, isn't she?
Yeah,
she's in the spoof.
She was on the show that night or something. So
she was the musical guest or whatever.
I can't remember if she was on the show, but I remember that video review, and she was in it.
Well, her and Mike Myers are pally.
Wanted to make out with Mike Myers or something. I'm like, wait, that's Madonna. What's going on?
Right. Well, she did Beautiful Stranger for Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. Like, they're pally.
I think that's always been a great track. Yeah. It's not a dance track, but
Beautiful Stranger
track.
It's that psychedelic.
It's fantastic.
Vibe.
Yeah, I think it's a great
fantastic track. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
No, but
it's not what ruined rock, but it's it's a good track.
I really like that song. It's a very, very good song. There's not a lot of stuff that I like that Madonna did in the 90s, but that one's a standout.
What was your take on music?
It was fine. Rain, I think Rain was on there. I mean, that was very adult contemporary to me. Maybe,
but it was right. I played it a lot at the hotel because it was right around the same time that Cher had Believe in Love. Yep. And they became like synonymous, like tracks that I ended up playing at events there. Yeah, and it just became a period of time where you were going to get both those tracks.
Well, I love Madonna, like the early stuff. I'm okay with their other stuff, but the last great Madonna track, in my humble opinion, is a remix of her track. It's the Peter Rutherford remix of Nothing Fails. It's really good. Really, really good. I was thinking that might have been off of music. But that track is hauntingly gorgeous, and it's house, it's deep. I first time I ever heard it was, of all places, in New York City at a Virgin Megastore. And I was downstairs, like where they had all the 12 inches. And I'm like, what is this? And the guy at the counter was like, look, I'm showing you right here what's playing. Don't ask me those kind of questions. Like, whoa, welcome to New York.
Yeah.
It was off this 3-disc Harmonic Exchange CD that I bought that's now worth several $100s. It's a very hard track to find. I did find it on 12-inch, though. It's really good. But anyway, that's my pick.
She showed her true colors with doing tracks like Live to Tell.
Oh, that was beautiful.
It's just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous song. Like it's Barbara Streisand quality gorgeous song.
You want to get chills. Chills. I've got like a mint copy of Live to Tell behind me.
Nice.
And I was on Discogs a couple of years ago. It might have been during COVID. And I just bought some stuff. And when you are on Discogs, you can go to a seller's page, and sometimes it's like, okay, $5 shipping for the first album, and everything else after that is free shipping. So you just buy everything because, especially if it's cheap. And I saw Madonna Live to Tell. Not my favorite Madonna song. Really, it's just not. But I saw it, and they only wanted $1 for it. So I'm like, yeah, you know what? $1 free shipping. Of course, I'm going to take it. It's going to help complete my Madonna 12-inch collection. Mm-hmm. I get it. It's like brand new. And I dropped the needle on the thing, and that scent at the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's analog, and the recording is analog. This sounds insane on a record player. Some people say, "Oh, vinyl sounds better." The hipsters. CDs sound better, unless it's an analog recording and it's something like a string or an analog synth or something. This is what you want to listen to on a record player. If you can find a nice copy of that, try it. It's amazing.
I know it's really mellow, but it's that when an artist takes themselves out of what you think they do and then does something completely out of that realm and does it really well. George Michaels was great at that. I thought, he could do, a Freedom track. He could do Careless Whisper. He could do, the Kiss track. He could do, all different stuff that sounded completely polar opposite, but yet his voice just soared.
He made everything sound
one of the best male vocalists of all time.
Yeah.
The production for an analog on Madonna. I think I might have that one, actually.
I came this close to doing Faith tonight. George
Really?
Michael's Faith. Yeah,
That's
I was
such
thinking
a great
about
album.
it.
Also good.
I have a few copies of that.
Album.
And great singles. That was, for me, a listen from front to back.
Everything on it.
And I was at the Faith 88 tour. I was in like the 11th row or something like that. And
wow.
That was really, something.
I never saw him live. I know he can dance. I know he can sing, but live, is he just captivating?
It's the same thing as the damn videos back then.
Okay.
If you like the Faith videos, it's the same thing on the tour.
Okay.
And vocally, same thing. Same thing. The only time I felt sorry for him is he because he was kind of a, what word am I looking for? He was kind of a sentimental guy, and he was pretty deep, and he, was doing all these bangers, and we were all having fun. And then he goes, okay, well, I want to do this one song, and it's going to be a little slow, and I just want to sing it for you. I never heard it again, but he starts doing it, and it's beautiful. But we were just so hyped up, we didn't want to hear that shit.
Was it like One More Try? Was it around the time?
No, it was something I'd never heard before. It was something he was messing
Praying
around.
for Time? Or?
No, it wasn't a song that I'd ever heard before.
Oh, okay.
And I haven't heard since. But he was doing this track, and it was very serious. We weren't, though, because we just came off of Monkey and I Want Your Sex and everything. We're all hyped up, and he wants to bring it down like hardcore and do this torch song.
The jacket in the closet.
It was like kissing a fool, but not kissing a fool.
Right. It's funny because bands hate that. Bands hate the fact that when they do a drum solo, they know everyone's running to the bathroom, but they still want to do the drum solo. They just have to figure out how to keep the crowd.
Well, this was just, he was still there, But I remember he was singing and he was so into it. You could just tell he was pouring his heart out into this. The guy was only 24 years old when he was doing this stuff.
Right.
He was
the
a
crowd's
kid.
just like,
he was a superstar.
No, dude, sex again.
And I'm looking right at the guy. I mean, what is he? 20 feet away from me?
You had a moment?
And I'm watching him. And somebody threw a wet t-shirt right in his face, just like, as he's trying to do this. And he tries to ignore it, brush it off. You could tell he's a little shaken by this and continues on, and then like it didn't happen. But no, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I did feel sorry for him in that moment, though, because he really wanted to get this out. You know?
Yeah.
But it was his own fault. I mean, that's not where you play something like this.
Yeah, but this is that, you know, and this is an age-old discussion and argument about bands and their performance. And I've made it very clear I'm one of the biggest Aerosmith fans, and I'll never go see their residence in Vegas because I don't want to see the new version of Aerosmith doing just the hits that people under the age of 30 want.
Well, that was Prince was the same way. You know, was the album.
I want the deep dive.
Yeah.
I want your actual material. And when singers come out and they go, hey, I want to do this song. I think I told you when I saw Ministry last year, Al Jorgensen was very upfront about this tour. I said, how's the tour? He goes, it's going great. And one of the changes I made this year was no new music until the encore. They had chain link fence in front of the stage for the whole show.
Like the Blues Brothers.
Whole show. Then at the end of the show, before the encore, this chain link fence all went away. And he came out and said, hey, thank you so much. You guys have been great. These are songs off the new album. I'd love you to take a listen. And he did 4 straight tracks from the new album, and the entire audience stayed. And he found that really helps. Instead of doing the famous, hey, thanks so much for hearing the first 3 hits. Now I've got 5 songs you've never heard before.
Yeah, something you don't know. Yeah.
And bands, and it's a real balancing act for a band to go on tour and go, you know, what tracks do we do? What order do we do them in?
Right.
You know, I mean, the Rolling Stones, I wouldn't wish that job on my worst enemy. Let's pick the Rolling Stones new tour set. Are you kidding? We can name 80 songs that they could do that everyone knows, but they've got to slip in if they've got new material. They've got to do that. Well, and then which of the 80, what do you close with if you're the Stones? Satisfaction?
Well, okay. I understand where you're going with this, but we're talking about a 24-year-old George Michael who has 1 solo album under his belt. He's got 3 albums with Wham.
Right.
But he's not going to do anything off the first album because no one in America knows it. He's going to do maybe a song or 2 off the 3rd album, maybe a song or 2 off the 2nd album, but the concert, and it was an amphitheater concert. This was a huge concert. I mean, this is where you go see Ozfest. It's that big of and it was packed. The core of this show was the new George Michael with his Faith album.
Right.
That was the core of the show. So it's not like he had, 10 years of back catalog to play with. He had essentially 3 albums with Wham, and then, like I say, the solo album.
Right.
So
fans were rabid.
Picking and choosing his material was pretty easy. He does everything she wants.
Right.
He does Wake Me Up Before You Go, I don't think.
Right. You got to do that. He didn't do that?
I don't remember him doing it.
I mean, that would have been my encore. If I'm George Michael on my first tour album.
On the Faith tour? No, dude. George Michael went from
be in the material, though.
Glowing gloves.
Oh, yeah, to the unshaven leather jacket guy. Yeah.
Complete switch.
But and his music went from where you came
very kid-friendly to I Want Your Sex.
How many people in the audience still had a, choose life t-shirt, choose life and all that?
I had a different t-shirt. My mother bought it for me, which is creepy now that I think about it.
Yeah.
I had the Frankie Stay Relaxed shirt.
Look at that.
My mom bought it for me, which was interesting in retrospect.
There's a lot of you and your mom interesting moments about songs. let's not go into it now, but mom will sing lyrics out loud that
she will. She has no idea what she's saying.
Sometimes if you don't tell her, but Yeah.
You're gonna have to.
You think.
You have to meet my mother someday. She knows who you are. You will love her.
Yeah. No, I would love to meet
you. You will love this woman.
Yeah. No, I guarantee I would. But if she starts humming some old school, like deep funk Teddy Pendergrass track.
She's not weird. She's not weird. I swear.
I don't think she's weird.
She's cool and normal, but she's just.
Yeah, but you present her as
like her.
growing up, singing certain songs around the house that are just like, Mom,
she didn't know. That. She was so naive. I knew as a child. She didn't know as an adult.
Right.
That's the funny part.
Frankie says relax. So
she's caught up now.
You relax. Yeah, I'll relax. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I'll relax till later.
Yeah.
No, but I think even for new artists, you got to come out of the gate and really present a banger show. But if you're the artist on stage, you've got this huge audience in front of you. There's got to be a moment of clarity where you go, you know what? This is really who I am inside, or this is what I really want to get across to you. Here's a track. And you're kind of gambling and hoping the audience goes, yeah, oh my God, that's perfect. Great.
Yeah.
That's the measuring stick for whether it makes an album. So
right, but sadly, he's looking 20 feet. He's looking 20 feet.
I'm looking right at this
Brian Frankie's t-shirt, right? He's like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
They're not here for me.
Then he gets hit with a Frankie's t-shirt, and that was the end of that.
You know, I'm just remembering this. I totally forgotten about it.
Huh.
I had these t-shirts. I don't know when I bought them, but I had a bunch of them, and they were all like they had hip hop sayings on them. And there was, "Don't sweat the technique" was one of them, and I had one that said "Mama said knock you out." And my dad, I mean, he had no idea LL Cool J, but he thought that was the coolest shirt. He's like, "Oh, we used to say that back in the orphanage. Mama said knock you out." I like that shirt. That's funny. I like that shirt. Awesome. He had no idea what the reference was of it, but he'd have been 90 years old this year. I mean, he didn't know. But yeah.
Different generation. Well, where does everyone draw from in the past?
Yeah. And he had a 10-year anyway, and he
didn't call it a comeback.
he was, yeah. Well, he was like about the Statler brothers. That was about as modern as he got,
There you go. Oak Ridge Boys on a good night.
That's that newfangled stuff. I don't know.
That's stretching it.
That's stretching.
All I know is there's a young lady out of the Golden Banana named Clarissa, who I thought would be a good idea to give away my Dangerous Toys sporting a Woody t-shirt to. I did. And now in hindsight, I think walking around, certainly today, it would not mean the same thing if I wandered through Temecula.
It meant the same thing. You just didn't know what it meant at the time.
Yeah. At the time, I was like, that's cool. That's what I'm doing. That way. It was a different time.
It was
open up and say, didn't mean what it means today.
No.
It wasn't a dental reference.
It meant the same thing. We were just, I remember whenever I would, it was like Beavis and Butthead. He said, whatever. That's almost the attitude it was back then. Oh, you're just thinking dirty. That's not really what it means. Oh, yeah.
Mine's in the gutter.
That's what it means.
So when Phil Lynott on Live and Dangerous asks the audience if they have any Irish in them,
would you like some?
I took it as they're an Irish band. They're going to play Irish music.
Would you like some? We're going to play some Irish music for you. Some Irish
things change quickly as I aged.
Yeah, they do. They do. Yeah. And now it's funny because Mom was so naive to that stuff, years ago. But now she's the first. Like if I say something and don't word it quite right, she's the first to bust me and laugh. Like she's Beavis and Butthead to me now. It's you said whatever. It's like, oh come on, Ma, I didn't mean that.
I talked with a couple the other night, and Aerosmith got brought up, and Michelle goes, Jay's a huge Aerosmith fan, Boston, he's seen a bunch of times, yada, yada, yada. And they go, the poetry of Aerosmith is so stunning. I mean, every time that I look in the mirror, all these lines on my face getting clear. He's talking about how age and experience and life are vision. And she goes into this thing for like 2 minutes. And I literally let her finish, and I go, he's talking about cocaine lines on a mirror. What? I said, no, it's really well documented.
Yeah, double entendre.
From him looking in
double entendre, exactly. Yeah,
all these lines on my face getting clear because
that makes it more brilliant.
But that's the thing.
Yeah.
You hear it. It's all in. I famously have said the story that I've read that Seal will not release lyrics.
Because whatever
Seal
you think it is. Yeah.
Whatever you think it is what it is.
Right.
And there's a beauty to that because a song should be a personal thing. Even though they make it for the masses and it's accessible by the world, it should be yours. If this is your song, when the headphones go on from your Sony Walkman or whatever other device you're using these days, the kids with the phones, it should be your thing when you close your eyes. And I think that's what artists always do. If we walked in and looked at a piece of art in a museum, no one would stop us all and say, you guys all see the bridge, right? It would be our own interpretation. And I think music should be given that same kind of right that art paintings have always been given. It's in the eyes of the beholder. I think music should go back to that and be like, hey man, you love this, Slayer's South of Heaven because it does this for you. That's perfect.
I have a question for you.
Excuse. Yeah.
And this is for the class. I've wondered this. Well, from what you've just said, Jay, when we're talking about something like a two-dimensional art form of a painting, everyone sees something different.
Right.
Do you think with music, everybody hears something different?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, have you ever wondered how somebody could hear I Love Rock and Roll by Joan Jett in a completely different way that you're hearing I Love Rock and Roll by Joan Jett? Because to you, it's a staple and it sounds this way.
It sounds this way.
Somebody else hears it completely different.
We've heard it 8,000 times. We've heard it every conceivable way it can be heard. And they heard it growing up.
A way we've never thought of.
Right.
Weird.
I heard somebody say this to me in college 1,000 years ago. And it has stuck with me ever since then. And I don't say it out loud very often. And what they said was, do you ever stop and think that what I see out of my eyes is completely different than what you see, even if we agree on it?
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, like, when they look at me, when I look in the mirror, what I see may not be anything as you see, because if you take a picture and show it to me, I'll see what I see, but you'll see what you see. And I think music and art and reality is that way. How many times have you seen somebody look at a situation and go, this is unsolvable, this is out of control, and you look at it and just go, what are you talking about? It's a it's a ball joint on the front of the, look at all the comments on Facebook. You immediately diagnose, oh, it's a ball joint. Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah. And people are like, oh my God, you need to destroy it. It's alive. Oh, this is Satan. Oh, it's got to be a rear axle. Like, people are just going ballistic. I think it might be a muffler. It could be your air conditioning condenser.
The muffler bearings. Like,
like people just go ballistic. Could be blinker fluid. That's usually
there's a lot of strange opinions on that.
People run with it. And I think they do that with music. I think they hear it as relative to memories and experience. Because when I hear Traffic, Low Spark, and Royal Scam, I'm walking the dog tonight in the rain, and in my brain, I'm like, man, if I had a 1978 Dodge Aspen wagon right now, I'd have Traffic on cassette, and I'd have Royal Scam on cassette, and I would just drive around and watch those blades hit the beat. And that's a moment and memory that only I possess.
Yeah,
it was cassette. I had cassettes, John. This was the late 70s.
Maybe the entire city of Toronto, Canada hears Drake differently than I do. I think they probably do.
Oh, yeah, they probably do. I think everyone hears Drake differently.
Well, to them, that's their hometown hero.
Right. By the way, I want to go on record. Brian and I, maybe John too, can't name more than 17 of the 600 Drake Billboard #1 hits that have come in the last 3 weeks.
Hotline Bling, I'm out. Mic drop.
There you go, done.
That's all I got.
One Dance.
That's 6 more than I can do.
Yeah. One Dance. I still play One Dance. That's the only reason I know that one.
He's on. Is he on Khaled's All I Do Is Win? I think he's on that.
Everybody's on everything now, or they get a credit on it, because it's just nobody just goes into the studio and
I think you take things the way you take them. I mean, and I think new artists, it's different because of technology. And the best example is go listen to old Billie Holiday on vinyl. If you want to know what listening to music is, go listen to some old Billie Holiday.
You're winning the kids over tonight. Jay.
Well, you know what? The kids need to learn.
She was great. She was
if you're under 70, this is news to you. But
I have a Billie Holiday story for you after the show.
I'm just saying, there's a version of
this section of our show is sponsored by AARP. Yeah,
it already is.
Now I gotta wrap this up because I got to get to Denny's. They've got the senior specials end at 7.
You remind me of my
80-year-old thing where I got to yell louder for people in the back.
You remind me of my 80-year-old music teacher who would yell at us for not appreciating Beethoven and Mozart more. You know, it's like, shut up, lady.
Well,
come on, I want to hear the Knack album.
I think it's the vinyl. I think it's, and we all have our own pieces generationally, but, even listening to something like Rachel Sweet, Wildwood Saloon, I'm one of probably 40 people that know that song, even though it's a song. And if you don't know who Rachel Sweet is, that's half the problem. But every time I've heard it, it's the memory of it that makes it my song, that gives it that emotion. And I think that's a beautiful aspect of music. Is it's the greatest drug that won't kill you. You can't overdose on it. And it will always get you away from the problems of the moment and make you feel safe. And I think that that's one of the most beautiful things. And the honor of being a DJ is that I get to be part of that equation in a very small manner. I didn't create the music I play, but I get to be creative in the order with which I play it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's what we do.
For sure.
I mean, it's like giving us diamonds and we get to make jewelry. Well, we didn't create the diamonds, but we get to put the diamonds in such a way that, there's more beauty to it. And that's our goal, at least with me. And I'm sure with you and John and everyone that tunes in.
I think it's easier for music than it is.
Billie Holiday.
It's easier for music than it is art. Like a banana duct taped to the wall, and they're like, "Oh, art! It's so trendy." I'm like, "It's a banana taped to the wall. Yeah. It's a banana." Right. Like we can't see into that depth, but we can listen to chord changes and songs and figure out.
Well, you guys were more into dance music than I was way before me. So by the time I got into it, and I was a big reader. So, when I got into metal, I got into Kerrang! Magazine. I read Hit Parader, Circus, Cream, Guitar World, Guitar Player. I was a reader because we didn't have internet, which made it even easier to get a magazine. Suddenly, when I got into dance and I started reading more magazines on that side, I remember one of them, it was either DJ Times or one of those that came out, and the cover of the magazine had like 100 different terms. And it said dance music equals, and it was like house, progressive house, vocal house, deep house, trance, psytrance, dark tech house, minimalist. Like,
oh, Jesus, how many Ziplocs can you put this?
They were British, yeah.
But that's the thing, because I would talk to guys and I'd be like, "Hey, man, like this is a great house song. It's actually more of a progressive track." I'm like, "What does that mean?"
Yeah,
and I was the guy British. I wasn't too ashamed to say to guys, DJs especially, "What do you mean progressive? Like, can you define what that means?" And then it'd be like, "Well, it's got more of the New York piano, but with a vocal line." I'm like, "Okay, what's a New York piano?"
Yeah.
Well, on like Strings of Life, I'm like, "I heard that was techno."
Right.
Well, it's techno, but what I'm saying? Like, you start going down rabbit holes of music definition.
They just want to own everything.
That's when I start quoting Billy Joel. Everybody's talking about the new sound funny, but it's still rock and roll to me.
Right.
A good song is a good song.
Dance to it. It's a good song. Ta-da.
Yeah, or don't dance to it. It's a good song. It's a good song.
And that's the thing. I mean, even something like Billy Joel, I'll never let go of listening to songs from the attic with Penny Moskowitz drinking Beefeaters in a glass with lime, smoking in her dorm room, and her looking at me going, "Love this song. I love this song." And me being like, "My God, I've never heard Street Life Serenader before. This is the most amazing song."
Nor I've ever seen a girl topless before.
The moment. Half that emotion,
Penny Moskowitz in the chat. Penny Moskowitz, I think.
Not exactly. Dude,
I haven't gone by that name in
a lot of Long Island girls went to Northeastern. Penny Moskowitz lived upstairs from Whitehall.
Just rolls off.
Find me some paperwork. I'll prove it. Well, look, every time I hear How Soon Is Now, it's just a song by the Smiths. But I'm still brought back to that February night on a rooftop.
On the rooftop.
Drinking a beer in the snow, wearing my new Reebok Talls with the Velcro stripe, and just this song comes out of nowhere, and I'm like, this is a moment.
Jay, I swear to God, you were doing so good. Now it's like we have Jay's greatest hits on shuffle for the last 10 minutes of the show. you gotta get some new stuff happening to you. So you tell some new stories.
Hey, I'm just bringing. I got new stories. Hey, Barry Manilow.
Yeah, Barry Manilow. Yes, new story. All right, we'll put a fork in it. We didn't get to the DJs are weird part, but I think we kind of did in a way. In a roundabout kind of way, we did get to the whole DJs are weird concept.
Hey, don't let anyone tell you how to love. I think that's what we've learned tonight.
I did a video for you today, Jay. You'll never see.
Oh, you did?
Look at my YouTube channel.
I gotta find
a YouTube channel.
Thing. I hear about
a YouTube channel. You should check it out.
I did a video for you today. Yes. But anyway, it doesn't matter. You'll never see it.
Well,
I hope somebody you see the show. And if you do, say hi. Let us know what you thought.
Is it about that George Michael song that no one's ever heard?
Yeah. What is that song? I remember Dion Estes to open for that. And Dion Estes was the bass player in Wham too. He had a song called Heaven Help Me, and that was
Heaven Help Me. Yeah, that was the big one.
Yeah. But I don't remember I don't know if it turned up on Listen Without Prejudice or what. But it was a song I never heard before that he did.
I think that
maybe it was somebody else's song he did.
Narcissus.
It was probably a Billie Holiday song you did or something.
Well, that would be a smart move. Billie Holiday is a jazz classic.
It was something like that. I don't know. Anyway, thanks, guys.
I played Wes Montgomery the other night. Got 3 compliments. We'll
see you next week. Bye.